Welcome back. Now we try another way to attack our target machine using SSH keys. We spoke about SSH before. We also, when you remember this, used our SSH old keys, put them into a separate folder and generated new SSH keys. The reason why we did that is because it is well known that Debian systems and other Linux distributions have potentially a security problem. The reason of this problem is due to the fact that when these SSH keys are generated so-called randomly, random never really means random. It actually always means pseudo-random. And unfortunately, in the case of many distributions, these keys were limited from quite a restricted list of potential keys. So the idea of this particular hack is that you could take a known list of keys and simply try to connect using SSH. So that's the basic idea. So it's a very, very simple way to hack. Now, the known problem is, you also find this quite well documented online, is CVE 2008 then 0166. So that is actually kind of a code where this was recorded, and there are lots of different exploits available on this. So we just look for this. Again, you find this also actually discussed in the slides, and you find several discussions around this particular problem. You also find here a GitHub repository. We just click on this one, and that will navigate you to various tools. In my personal case, I tend to prefer working in Python, so you have different exploits written in other languages as well. I'm not a big fan of Perl or Ruby. Of course, I know that quite a few people like Ruby, but it kind of never really took off, to be really honest. Anyway, in security, I think Python is quite a good choice for many applications. So we just click on the Python exploit, and in here you get a whole description which you should go through, and down there you see the Python script. Yeah, so I know you should be quite familiar with Python, so I think you will be able to detect how this works. I won't talk about this in any significant detail. If we have enough time, I will talk a little bit about some underlying Python coding issues, linked to security, linked to networks, things like socket programming. Now, when you look at the import statements, they're all quite fine, I guess. The Q1 might not be installed, so that's something you have to have a look. It depends. The other ones are standard. You also know, just looking at the code, in particular the print statements, that this is written in Python 2. It's not Python 3, so it's an older version of Python. Something to consider when we want to run this. Now, I want you to go back now to our terminal. Let me just open one. So here we go. I just maximize that. I zoom in a little bit. So here we are. And I want to have access to Python. So what do you do on Linux? You just type in Python, if you can type it, that's the assumption, execute, and you go into a Python shell. Now this is exactly the same behavior you see when you work on a Mac operating system. when you type in Python and you execute, you end up in a Python shell. This is now, you see there's a Python 2 shell, so it's Python 2.7.18. Now, once you have a shell, you can of course start, normal coding activities. You can assign a value to A, for instance, and then you can do whatever you want to do. For instance, a simple print something, and let's do here hello world. Let's do that, and you get hello world. Yeah. So and you see in Python 2, this would be a perfectly fine print statement. In Python 3, you would actually use kind of a function notation. So you would put the string into brackets. So there's there's slightly different things about the type of syntax you use, but otherwise it's very, very familiar. Good. So that's Python 2. Yeah. So if you want to exit, we just go out, and we can enter Python 3. Oops, if I spell things correctly. And that's a Python 3.9.9. So this is quite the latest version of Python. So that's pretty good. So we are in Python 3 now. And again, we could of course just do something like this. Then we use a print function here, and we would get our output. Yes, it all behaves as you would expect it to behave. Now, when it comes to Linux and Kali Linux in particular, so Python 2, Python 3 should be already installed. So that should already be up and running. I assume that the pip installer might not be installed. You have to try this. If it's not installed, it might be useful to actually get the pip installer. Now again, I assume you are familiar with the pip installer, and so this is quite a useful way to update your Python, to download some packages you might like to use, and it's definitely for me my preferred option to keep my Python up to date. You can use alternatives, for instance Anaconda. Again, you find lots of documentation on that. It's a matter of choice. So usually when I work, I use Anaconda quite a lot when I do any data science kind of projects. There are benefits, but if I do some serious coding, I prefer my own virtual environment. But that's my preference, and people are different. Good. So assuming you have the pip installer installed, again, if you don't know how to do it, you find documentation online. The Q package which you saw in the script might need to be installed. This is very easily done using the pip installer. You just have to use pip install Q lib. So this is the Q library. That should do it. So if you execute that, that should actually run. It might take a while. In my case, I already installed a version. It might, of course, now check for any updates. Yeah. So here you see requirements already satisfied. So it's already up and running. Yeah. Also you get a message where this is all saved. Yeah. So that's all up and running, which is pretty good. Yeah, so if you do an import statement now with Q, it should run. Again, note that Q is lowercase in Python 3, it's uppercase in Python 2, so there are some differences. The other thing I would like to stress is that if you seriously want to work in Python on a Kali machine, it would make a lot of sense to actually get an editor. Yeah, so I personally use Sublime Text. Sublime Text is, in my opinion, really an excellent text editor. It's not an integrated development environment. It's actually a text editor, which means in terms of executing my code, I use the command line, but this works really nicely in a Linux setup. Again, you don't have to use that. You can also use other things. There is PyCharm, there is VS Code. I have done all of these things for various projects. I personally like Sublime. I actually also have a license on my main system, and I really love it. In particular, if I work across different languages, do anything on web development, I actually really like it. I think it's a great text editor. Now, on a Linux package, you have to follow these instructions. It's very easy. You just simply follow them. So it's the wget command, and you can directly link here to the location online. That's a very straightforward setup. So just go through this. I would select the stable version, just to make sure the things are running as expected. The apt one is the one to go for. We already used this before. So if you follow that, again, note the latest version of apt doesn't need the get, for instance, but it should also work. Yeah, if you just literally follow exactly what you see under apt, that should install on your Kali Linux. Now, the benefit is once you have it installed, any scripting, you could open this up in Sublime, which is much nicer to work with. Yeah, so just go to recently used. So if you go into Sublime Text, I can simply start right away coding, or I can open some code which I saved somewhere. Yeah, so if you just do open file, you can check where you have your Python script sitting. I think this one here is most likely the one. So that's the one which you also find online. Yeah, so much easier to work with, and you see you have different color coding, so it's much easier to code in a professional text editor. The alternative, of course, is to simply use what we already know, like Nano, which is fine, but I personally think it's not good enough for coding. I think this is too difficult. It's fine for some, if you want to do some minor tweaks to a code maybe. But anything more than that, I would strongly advise you to use a text editor such as Sublime. Good. Now, what we need to do to use this exploit is the following. We have to copy-paste all of that into a file. Yeah. Again, there are different ways of doing it. You can do it through Nano, and I think I speak about this somewhere in the slides. Or the alternative is to use what we just downloaded, Sublime. Yeah, so you just mark all of that, this print statement as well. You do a right click on this and you just do a copy. Yeah, and then you can paste either in Nano or you can paste elsewhere. Yeah, I just show you how to do it in Nano. I just start here a new file. I just call this fun.py, and you note I use the .py extension because it's a Python script, because then I can in the command line execute that. So it's not just an empty file. I use my Nano and I open this, and it's just an empty file right now. Yeah, so that should be perfectly fine. We have here below the paste option. Yeah, and this is just Control U. So you should hit Control U and it should paste it in. Oops, that should work if you used the copy inside the setting, which we haven't done. In our case, if you go to the top of it and you do a right click, you should be able to paste your selection or paste the clipboard. So that's actually it. So we copied it into Nano. So you see it's kind of working, but to be honest, would I use it? Would I like to work like this on Linux in Python? I have to say no. Yeah, because also in Python you need to be careful, for instance, with the tabs, because the tabs, of course, they define the blocks. So it's hard to manage on Nano, honestly speaking, but it does work. So it does work. When you do a Control O, and you would write to it, and when you do a Control X, and you're out. Yeah, so now we have it on Nano. So that works. I'm not a fan. I get rid of it. I'm not a big fan of it. So in my case, I did the same basically, but I used Sublime, and I already saved it somewhere if I'm able to find it. I think I moved it into Python. So there's a Python folder. So let me just navigate to Python. And also I used a subfolder SSH for our attack. And it should be stored somewhere here. And indeed, here it is. We have a Python 2 script stored here. I also converted this into Python 3, but it's not really needed. We run this under Python 2. That's perfectly fine. So that's the first thing we have to note. Now, I think it would be a good idea simply to try and see whether it runs, whether there's anything that happens that's not looking right. So if you are in the correct folder, you simply type in Python. Now this opens up our Python 2, and you go for the exploit. I already put in other things, and I come to this later. We don't have to do it right now. And I just run the script. Yes, I just use here Python, then the name of a file, which is exploit_ssh_python2.py, and run it. Okay. Now what you obtain here is you obtain simply the name of this particular package, and here you see what you call positional arguments, and two of them, the port and the thread, these are optionals. They already have a default value. Yeah, and you see the default value for the port is 22, which is the correct port. So when you go back to your scanning, you see that for the SSH we have port 22 open. Yeah, so that's correct. The thread basically tells how many of the possible keys are tried simultaneously. So if you select a very high number, it might overwhelm your connection. So you have to be reasonable. Of course, if you select a higher number, it goes quicker. Okay. So the script is running. You need to specify in the first position, you see the structure here. Yeah, first position, you have to specify the path to your private keys. Yeah, we have to download them first. Then you have to select the host, so that's the victim, so that's the IP address, and then the user, so that's the user of the victim host. Yeah, so that's something we also have to specify, and in the back we have the port and other things, so that should be fine. Yeah, so you basically have to follow that and try it out. Yeah, so that's the structure. Now the next step we have to take is we have to download the keys, get them into the right folder, and then we try to run this exploit. Good, I see you in